I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma. I was doing chores before I could even drive, working for the farm down the street while I was in middle school. I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school, so I had my extra money. Nobody in my family handed me anything. You worked for what you had and you learned how to make that stretch. So when people ask me how I learned to think of my performing career as a business, that's my honest answer. It wasn't a course, it wasn't a book, it was just how I was raised. And here's what I know for certain after 20 years in this business. The performers who build careers that last aren't always the most talented ones in the room. They're the ones that figured out how to run this like a business. So today, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what that looks like. Before I get into the framework, I wanna name the one thing that I see that holds most performers back. And it's not talent, it's not training, and it's not even the industry. It's the fantasy. There's this idea that I think most of us come out of our training thinking, which is success, and what does that equal? And to us, most of the time, success equals Broadway. Like that's it. That's the goal. You either make it or you break it, right? Broadway or bust. And if you don't book a Broadway show at a certain amount of time that you have in your head or ever in your career, that you are somehow a failure. This is just not how it works. And if you're holding on to that vision of success, it's going to keep you stuck. Because here's the truth. You will never know what your career is going to look like. I didn't. I didn't know that I would graduate from undergrad, I would move straight to New York, I would do some regional theater, go to do some cruise ship contracts, meet my husband on a cruise ship contract as we were both singers, go to California, go to grad school, open a luxury entertainment children's party company. My husband opened his own business as well as a musician. And then I went to grad school. We both became professors at programs across the country. And then we started to build other businesses. And we both decided to walk away from teaching after decades and that secure income because we wanted to go back to performing and being artists and me coaching as well full time. We have built multiple streams of income over the years, over the decades, because one single income as a performer, as an actor, is not enough. It will not pay your bills. It will not give you the retirement and the long-term financial support that you truly do need in this world, especially right now. That CEO mindset is not a personality, it's a decision. A decision to stop being passive with your career and to start being active. And I'm gonna give you 3 shifts to make that actually happen. These are not theoretical, these are how I have run my own business and how I teach my coaching clients to do it as well for themselves. Shift 1 is moving from passive to active, and I want you to be really honest with yourself right now about which one you are doing. Passive looks like this. You are waiting for auditions. You're waiting for your agent to call. You're waiting for the next big audition season. You're waiting for your next big break. You're waiting to feel ready. You're waiting to save up a little extra money to start actually posting more on Actors Access, posting more of your video content. You're waiting because you don't know what's the right way to create your reel or your clips, and you're waiting to get back into voice lessons or to get into dance class because you're not a dancer and you feel like you need that. Like you're just waiting for everything. And waiting is comfortable because it's being patient. But patience without action is avoidance. Active looks like this. You are looking at what is not working right now. You're doing self-tapes, even though maybe you don't really like them or you haven't figured out what's the best backdrop or you don't feel comfortable behind a camera yet, but you're doing them so you get 1% better every single time. You're looking at your materials and you're asking yourself, honestly, does this showcase my casting lane? Does it showcase my strengths? Do I have a clear vision of who I am, the essence of who I am? And is that being shown in my materials as a package? You are exploring what other kinds of work you can do, jobs you can do, income streams of revenue that you can create. Maybe that is like doing commercials. Maybe that's doing voiceover work. Maybe that's getting your real estate license or your Pilates license. Because you know that acting alone is not going to pay the bills long term because you are a CEO of this business. Or maybe there's something that's been staring you in your face about making income, but because you have this thing in your mind where you think, oh, I didn't go to college for that, I didn't spend all this money for that, you're still going, what if I did that? What if I tried that? It's starting to become active, because active means asking what's not working and actually doing something about it instead of just waiting for it to change all on its own magically. I have done jobs that were not my dream jobs, that I didn't, oh my God, I love doing this thing. I did it because I needed to. I didn't love working at McDonald's, but I did it because it was going to get me what I needed, which was income and money and resume experience and just discipline experience and awareness of working with other people. Sometimes you have to do jobs you don't love to get to where you want to go, because the unglamorous jobs that I have done in my life have completely leveled me up in so many other forms, because they kept me in the industry when I thought, what am I even doing with my life? What am I doing? They kept me going. And that is not failure, that is a strategy. Shift 2 is moving from scattered to strategic. And this is something I come back to quite often with my coaching clients, because it's honestly where I see the most wasted energy. Here's what scattered looks like. You are submitting for everything. You go to every single open call. Maybe that's an EPA or an ECC, wherever you are, just any open call in your area. You are taking whatever classes look good and look fun. You are kind of working on your materials, but you don't really have a clear vision of why I'm working on new material, or what is the purpose of working on this specific song or scene or headshot session. You're just I just need pictures of my head. It's cool, fine. You're just kind of doing a little bit of everything and nothing is gaining traction. And here's the truth, you do sometimes have to throw spaghetti at the wall, especially when you're new to this career and you don't really know your casting lane. You're still trying to figure out your materials and what do I need to say? What's the essence of who I am? Sometimes we do need to do that. But there has to come a point where you stop throwing spaghetti at the wall and you start analyzing what's working, what's not working, why. And this is where most performers have a huge blind spot. They don't know their numbers. I mean, literally, they don't track their numbers as an actor, as someone that's auditioning, and they don't track their numbers financially. So when you don't have a tracking system to analyze your work, you don't know what casting director is calling you in on repeat. You don't know what headshots and what materials are getting you seen. You don't know why some self-tapes are landing and why they're not landing. And you don't know what roles you're truly being called in for that may give you an idea as to what material you need to lean into and what material you can let go of. In any actual business, you track your numbers, you analyze it, you say, this is where we're doing well, this is where we're not doing well, what do we need to fix? What problems do we need to solve? You make adjustments, and this career is no different. So strategic means this, you know your data. You're tracking your callbacks, you're tracking your ecocasts, you're tracking what's the tone of the show that you're being seen for, what is the casting team that keeps bringing you in, what are you not being seen for, what are you missing that you thought you were right for, but casting isn't seeing you for it for whatever reason. And you're looking and tracking these patterns and making adjustments, because scattered energy burns you out and strategic action builds from momentum. And honestly, the difference between these two is just to make the decision to pay attention. Shift 3, and this is the one that makes so many of us so uncomfortable, but it is to think of this career like a business. I say this with so much love, but you are a business. You are the CEO. You are in charge of this thing. And you have to be honest with yourself. That's what this requires. That means knowing your finances, knowing your income, knowing your expenses, being able to do your taxes, know what you can and can't write off, and build towards some financial stability as you get older. Because you may not be thinking about it in your 20s or your 30s, but when you hit your 40s, trust me, you're gonna thank yourself for thinking about it and preparing for it. Because this career, as we know, does not come with a guarantee. It does not come with a salary. And that means having more than one income, more than one stream of revenue. Not as a backup plan, not as plan B, but as a structure. A structure that means you're showing up for auditions, callbacks, you're submitting those tapes into the black hole, but you're doing it out of an emotional groundedness where it is not desperation. Oh my God, I'm so desperate to get this job. I have to get this job. If I don't get this tour or book this regional theater contract, or if I don't ever book Broadway, and you're spiraling because you take all that desperation into the room and then you don't do your best work. And you're not taking jobs just out of desperation. And also you're not, honestly, one slow season away from quitting altogether or not being able to pay your bills or your rent. Because here's what I know about building businesses before I even went to grad school and got my MFA and became a professor. The structure of building a business doesn't have to be difficult or overly complicated, but it does have to be intentional. You have to decide what you're building, what the purpose behind it is, and not just hope that it somehow figures itself out. Being honest about that is not giving up your artistry. It's giving your artistry the infrastructure it needs to succeed. So here's how I want you to apply this. It's not a to-do list, it's a framework. 90 days, that's your unit of measurement. Sit down and ask yourself, what do I really truly want to accomplish in the next 90 days? And I want you to be specific about what should be on this list and what should not be on this list. Because booking a job cannot be on this list. You can't say in the next 90 days, I want to book a job, because we don't control that. You can control how you show up in the room, how you show up online, what you submit for, what your tapes are like, how your technique is improving, that your networking, you can control all of that. And that work is what puts you in a position to have opportunities to possibly book, to be seen. So your 90-day goal may look like this: update my materials so they're telling a clear and specific story about who I am. Or build a tracking system so I know my data. Or maybe it's identify and start building one additional income stream. Or research the casting landscape for the specific type of work I want to be doing and make 5 genuine connections in that world. From that 90-day goal, you break it down into monthly milestones. From the monthly milestones, you break it into weekly actions. And then every single day, you're doing something that moves toward the goal, not spinning, not scattered, and you're just staying busy, you're moving forward. The goal is that every action layers on top of the other. So at the end of the 90 days, you look back and you see that you actually accomplished one main goal. You can audit it. You can see what you built, what worked, what didn't work, and what adjustments that you can make. That's how a CEO thinks. And that's how you build a career long-term as a performing artist. Not by waiting for a big break, but by building the conditions. So when those opportunities arise, you're ready. And if you're having trouble kind of getting started on tracking your data, you can get a copy of my free spreadsheet down below. It's to track your auditions, whether you are on stage or you're also doing on-screen work. Use it as inspo, or maybe just start with that right now today, tracking those auditions and tracking that data. Like and subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you in the next one.